Hello everyone and welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Ash and I'm here to introduce you to your upcoming year of video game-shaped adventures. We have got ferocious tales of dragon slayers, dimension-breaking indie heroes, waterborne nightmares from the deep, and everything else in between coming in the next 12 months. And we're still catching up on all the good stuff that came out in 2023! Here's to another stacked year then, and 24 games you must play in 2024. First up then, it's a big one, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake for those of you who don't know your Aeriths from your Elenas, and it is more than just a video game. It is a cultural moment so enormous that even people like me who have barely played Final Fantasy are having our heads turned by its gravitational pull. Although my interest probably has more to do with the fact you get to play as a big talking cat thing and put funny hats on your chocobos. Joking aside though, seeing the trailers and enduring the daily unintelligible noises of excitement coming from other Access members, I have to admit Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks pretty special. A game that breaks free of the industrial shackles of Midgar and throws you into a lush expanse of open world, where you get to see how fan-favourite locations like Junon, Cosmo Canyon and the Gold Saucer have been reimagined on PS5, and fight alongside the most iconic cast of characters to ever grace a JRPG. And then there's the elephant in the room, the big question we've been waiting years to have answered. Can we save Aerith this time? I can't wait to find out when Final Fantasy VII Rebirth hits PS5 on the 29th of February 2024. From one fantasy world to another then, Dragon's Dogma 2 is also gracing our screens in 2024, delivering the sequel we've been waiting almost 12 years to see. This sees a dragon pluck out your heart, rude, and force you to seek revenge alongside a squad of loyal AI pawns. It also introduces the race of Beastren, lovely anthropomorphic cat people from the harsh lands of Batal, as well as a host of new vocations to specialise in, from the melee magic hybrid of Mystic Spearhand to the illusionary manoeuvres of the Trickster. But the bit everyone really cares about is clambering up enemies like a Shadow of the Colossus tribute act, including this absolutely massive Talos automaton. Start by his heels in spring, and you might make it to his head by December. Get climbing when Dragon's Dogma 2 comes to PS5 on the 22nd of March, 2024. Climbing up a giant mechanized statue is a little beyond the hero of our next game, Baby Steps. You play as Nate, a basement-dwelling slacker whisked to a fantasy land with nothing but his adult onesie for protection. This is not the tale of some latent superhero, but of a man learning to navigate one step at a time. No, literally, you use the DualSense to individually lift and plant each foot as you gradually plod to victory. Think of Death Stranding's simulated hiking, only pushed to an extreme degree. Oh, and with a fully dynamic onesie soilage system designed to capture every undignified stain, smear and splatter from your stumbles. What else could we expect from the minds behind Ape Out and Get Over It? This is a supergroup of oddball indie talent who improvised all the game's dialogue and of course built that fully dynamic onesie soilage system, which I just have to say for a second time. Baby Steps promises to be 2024's daftest PS5 gem. Drilling into our next pick, which will make sense in about 10 seconds, we have got first-person narrative horror Still Wakes the Deep, which sees you attempting to survive on an oil rig beset by an otherworldly presence. Told you it'd make sense. Now, this is cool because an oil rig is scary enough without any supernatural intervention, you know? It's an isolated shack of corrugated steel slurping from the oily belly of the North Sea. And that's before you factor brine getting everywhere. After a disaster severs communication lines, the already spooky rig begins to fall apart and flood, becoming the perfect playground for something horrible. Developers The Chinese Room are champions of haunting storytelling, from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture to Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, and this scenario is the perfect storm to deliver a truly harrowing horror experience. Even I'm a bit scared. Still Wakes the Deep splashes out onto PS5 in 2024. If you prefer your ocean waves to be less thrashing and more bodacious, maybe book a ticket to Honolulu in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Yes, Sega's brawlers are jetting off from the mean streets of Yokohama for a Hawaiian adventure as Ichiban Kasuga teams up with the silver fox Kasuma Kiryu to track down a figure from his past on those pristine white beaches. Almost seems a shame to decorate that sand with blood and shattered teeth, but this is Like a Dragon. With new job classes based on samurais, cowboys, and exotic dancers, you're going to be battering thugs from gorgeous sunup to equally gorgeous sundown. Throw in hundreds of distractions, from karaoke to arcade games to an entire island resort to build and manage, and we can't see this getting any less than 5 stars on TripAdvisor. Okay, maybe 4.5 because a shark beat us up. Even better, the plane's taking off soon. This comes to PS4 and PS5 on the 24th of January 2024. You can see things from a different perspective in The Plucky Squire, an adorable adventure through a storybook that isn't confined to its pages. Playing as Jot, the pluckiest of squires, you can break through the barriers of his 2D tale and into the world outside, exploring the mixed media madness of a whole new dimension. Whether it's facing off against giant insects or jetpacking up to unexplored heights, there's all sorts of brilliantly creative scenarios to discover outside of your book. And then you can go back in and box the stuffing out of a muscled-up badger. The game really has it all. We're especially excited to join the Plucky Squire on his adventures, alongside his magical pals like Paintbrush Witch Violet and Rocker Thrash, when it breaks through to our dimension on PS5 in 2024. Now, Tekken 8 doesn't break reality, but it does break a lot of bones, and in visually spectacular style. Story mode looks so good you can barely tell where the cutscenes end and the fights begin. But that's only a tiny corner of a huge game. We're excited for Arcade Quest, where you wander into a Tekken 8 arcade and start mastering your main whilst fighting local pros. Think of it as a practice run for taking things online. You can also train in ghost battles against AI fighters mimicking your own fighting style, perfect for spotting weaknesses in your own defense. And if you're totally new, there's also simplified special style controls that map combos to button presses. Handily, they can be switched on or off mid-fight. It all adds up to the most accessible Tekken yet, meaning even more people can discover the delights of kicking butt as a giant battle bear. Tekken 8 kicks off on PS5 on the 26th of January. From fighting bears to fighting ghosts, next up we have got Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, a story-driven action RPG that spans the gap between life and death. Playing as lovers Red and Antea, 2 banishers committed to hunting and exorcising spirits, you are tasked with lifting a nasty curse plaguing New Eden, one that sees plenty of ghosts, ghouls, and grave apparitions causing havoc. And, surprise surprise, one of those ends up being poor Antea herself. Bit of a bummer if you were hoping for a will they, won't they kind of romance, but quite handy for tag-teaming ghouls from both sides of the grave. Developed by the Don't Nod team behind the hugely underrated Vampire, this is another tale where every decision you make has consequences. Will you prioritise your relationship or your vows as a banisher? You can find out when Banishers Ghosts of New Eden haunts PS5 on the 13th of February. That's not all the spooky business we're dealing with in 2024, however, as Alone in the Dark delivers a glorious reimagining of the 1992 survival horror classic. Telling a new story that incorporates familiar elements from the older games in the series, Alone in the Dark is prime for newcomers to see what horrors are lurking in the gloom. That's not the only familiarity you'll spot though, as the fabulous Jodie Comer and David Harbour, that's Villanelle from Killing Eve and Hopper from Stranger Things, star as investigative protagonists caught in a nightmare, each with their own experiences to uncover as you choose your player character. Fight back against monsters, solve tricksy puzzles, and find the source of the madness as you are plunged into a Lovecraftian hellscape masquerading as a manor. Ooh, sounds good. Get ready to turn out the lights and be alone in the dark when it comes to PS5 on the 20th of March, 2024. Another classic makes a bold return to consoles in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a 2.5D hybrid of action and platforming that lets you master time itself. Reminiscent of the iconic Sands of Time, the latest Prince of Persia game puts you in the leather boots of Sargon, an elite warrior of the Immortals, out to rescue a kidnapped prince from a realm unbound from the usual laws of time and space. Which is probably putting it quite mildly, to be fair. Packed with magical time distortion you can wield, mythical monsters up for a scrap, and a gorgeous environment hiding all sorts of secrets. I just wish I had those powers right now so I could hop forward in time and dive right in. Alas, I'll have to wait like everyone else for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown to come to PS4 and PS5 on the 18th of January 2024. Next, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered also joins the early birds of 2024, with only a few short weeks to wait until we're back in Seattle ready to have our hearts broken all over again. The world and stories of The Last of Us have always been unrivaled, and now the second part is getting a glow-up with enhanced visuals, extra accessibility features, and improved load times, alongside new roguelike survival mode No Return. Unleashing all sorts of combat hell has never been so satisfying, honestly. Strum yourself a song in guitar free play, blast through speedrun mode to get a world record time, and even head into lost levels that detail early development versions of game segments that haven't been seen before. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered explodes onto PS5 on the 19th of January 2024. Plenty of games on this list have been a long time coming, but no others can claim to be the conclusion to a 10-year saga. Destiny 2 The Final Shape is exactly that, the climactic finish to a tale that began in old Russia in 2014 and ends with us kitted out with a decade of loot, a squad of beloved allies, and a bone to pick with the Witness. Yep, it is time to deal with his creepy yogurt spill of a head once and for all, by stepping into the Traveller and fighting through a gauntlet that pulls inspiration from legendary locations from Destiny's past. Yes, we're getting to return to the tower from Destiny 1. It's like going back to your childhood home. I wonder if Sir's still in his usual spots. Of course, The Final Shape is just one stop on Destiny 2's exciting 2024 roadmap. There are huge changes coming to the traditional season structure and cool quality of life features to bring newcomers into juicy endgame content. The Final Shape comes to PS4 and PS5 on the 4th of June 2024. We've been radioing PlayStation HQ to airdrop us a sequel to Helldivers ever since we fell in love with Arrowhead's top-down PS4 bug blaster. In 2024, Helldivers 2 slams down to earth, taking that galactic peacekeeper fantasy and amplifying it with a new third-person over-the-shoulder perspective that puts us right amongst the alien scum. Luckily, you can call in aerial stratagems, which is basically Deliveroo for weapons of mass destruction. Gun turrets, shield generators, a 500-kilogram bomb. Pop an order in, wait for the airdrop, and your enemy's crusts are well and truly stuffed. Maybe I shouldn't have mixed the takeaway metaphor. Anyway, just like the original, friendly fire is always turned on, perfectly capturing the chaos of 4 gung-ho meatheads with itchy trigger fingers, and sure to result in some wicked PlayStation Access team arguments. Helldivers 2 drops on PS5 on the 8th of February 2024. If you love DC superheroes, then I've got some bad news for you. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League promises to exterminate the beloved heroes of Metropolis. Or rather, make you exterminate them whilst playing as the erratic supervillain quartet, the Suicide Squad. Uh-oh. Featuring the clown princess of crime Harley Quinn, deadly marksman Deadshot, Aussie assassin Captain Boomerang, and demigod fish human King Shark, with more characters to come post-launch, this is a game dedicated to chaos in all its forms. Whether that's in 4-player beatdowns across the city or mad story arcs where exploding heads are the least of your worries. Oh, did I mention the Suicide Squad are all under threat of having their head exploded at any moment? No? Well, now you know. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League dares you to join the baddies when it launches on PS5 on the 2nd of February 2024. Are you after something spooky in a bite-sized portion? Well, Little Nightmares 3 will have you covered. Small and frighty, you'll follow 2 little friends called Low and Alone as they attempt to find their way through what's described as a cluster of disturbing places. Not very homely then, by the looks of all the dust and litter, and that's without the giant murderous baby getting grabby with your characters. Little Nightmares 3 introduces online co-op for the first time in the series, meaning you and a pal can play as Low and Alone to work together for their freedom. Armed with a useful bow and a trusty wrench, Little Nightmares 3 is set to be a big dream come true for horror fans and puzzle heads alike when it comes to PS4 and PS5 in 2024. Next up, Star Wars Outlaws casts you as Kay Vess, a scoundrel doing her best Han Solo impression as she scams her way across the Outer Rim. She is so committed to the bit that she even has her own furry sidekick, Nyx, slightly cuter than Chewie. Video games have long wrestled with bringing Force-sensitive heroes to the screen, so it's exciting to see an adventure emerge from the galaxy far, far away's criminal class. The Division devs at Massive are cooking up open-world thrills. You'll hoon around several planets atop speeder bikes, enjoy sneaky heists or less sneaky blaster fights, before using Vess's ship to seamlessly zip into space for dogfights and side quests among the stars. Resident Star Wars fan Dave is vibrating with excitement, so let's hope this arrives on PS5 in 2024 before he does himself an injury. There aren't many games where it only takes a glimpse of a giant tree to get our blood pumping. One look at visions of Mana's mighty trunk and the wrinklier Access members were filled with misty-eyed memories. Of course, things have moved along in the last 30 years. Take this quick peek at Square Enix's gorgeous semi-open world, the first proper mainline Mana sequel in 15 years. As the heroic Val, you act as a bodyguard to a childhood friend journeying to the Mana Tree, which is really just an excuse to gawp at natural wonders and slice up beasties with real-time action combat. The Mana games have always had a touchy-feely relationship with nature, advocating for a holistic respect for the natural world, so it makes perfect sense that Square Enix have doubled down on building vistas so pretty you wouldn't want to lay a finger on them. Ugh, who are we kidding? We'll be all over this when Visions of Mana comes to PS4 and PS5 in 2024. Persona 3 turns 18 in 2024, which means it's finally old enough to be a party member in a Persona game. Atlus celebrate this milestone with Persona 3 Reload, a remake that drags the aging JRPG into the 2020s whilst maintaining its pitch-black heart. So, while you're free to drool over the visual splendor and quality of life improvements taken from Persona 5, you'll soon enter the randomized Tartarus and feel the rising pressure of every floor you climb towards its summit. Such is the role of the Special Extracurricular Execution Squad, a group of high school students who are left to balance nocturnal heroics with daytime socializing, your classic Persona formula with a slightly tougher difficulty curve. Although returning Persona 3 alumni will be happy to hear that party members are no longer AI controlled, so now it's fully your fault when Tartarus chews you up. Get ready to lick those wounds on PS4 and PS5 from the 2nd of February 2024. And that's not all for Persona heads, as 2024 also sees Persona director Katsura Hashino unleash his new JRPG masterpiece, Metaphor ReFantazio. School is well and truly out as he relocates to a fantasy kingdom where the king is dead and our hero is pulled into a grand election to succeed him. So begins a race around the kingdom to raise support, giving the game the same ticking clock as Persona's school days. And instead of pairing with demons, you're now inspired by the people you meet to unlock new combat archetypes, giving you multiple classes to play with in combat. That's if you choose to leap into turn-based combat. Weaker enemies can be chopped down in real time to speed things up. These are the kind of election promises we can get behind. Metaphor ReFantazio has our vote when it comes to PS4 and PS5 in late 2024. Expect political maneuvering of a more violent kind in Team Ninja's Rise of the Ronin, which drops us in late 19th century Japan during the final days of the Tokugawa shogunate. It is a time of turmoil, and as the Ronin, you have the chance to help forge Japan's future, choosing to align or clash with historic figures and their factions. And when I say clash, I am of course talking about the steel-on-steel variety. While this is more grounded territory for Team Ninja, they're bringing all their action know-how from Ninja Gaiden and Neo. Whether you fight with the blade, guns, or Garrett guards from the rooftops, the combat looks absolutely ferocious. But you don't need to engage with the enemy at all. You've got a nifty portable glider if you'd rather take a trip on Ronin Airways. The promise of Team Ninja's lethally precise swordplay blended with the historical sweep you might expect from Assassin's Creed makes this one of the most enticing games of 2024. Exclusively on PS5 on the 22nd of March. Speaking of lethal precision, our next game, No Rest for the Wicked, hopes to capture the power fantasy of an action RPG. Think Diablo, but with a tactility and control that means you can't button mash to victory. Oh, and it happens to look like a stone-cold stunner, with a painterly visual style that turns every still from the game into a work of art. Almost seems a shame to step into this living picture book and paint the pages in blood, but a hero's got a hero. We love the verticality of the world, perfectly capturing the crumbling depths of dank crypts and the rocky outcrops of deadly mountain roads. But don't spend too long looking. Due to the death of the king and an outbreak of a plague, you are now trapped between invading armies and infected monstrosities. 4-person online co-op should take the edge off, but there'll definitely be no rest for the wicked when this comes to PS5 later in 2024. There's always room for a bit more horror, right? Whatever your answer is, I'm going to give it to you anyway. Or rather, the legendary game makers behind Until Dawn, The Quarry, and the Dark Pictures anthology, Supermassive Games, are giving it to you in collaboration with Dead by Daylight, in the form of narrative horror mystery, The Casting of Frank Stone. Give it me. Give it me now! This creepy peek into a cosmic nightmare sees a group of friends face killer mysteries, drawn into Frank Stone's violent past as they plumb the depths of an abandoned steel mill. In true Supermassive style, your choices carry heavy consequences that toe the line of life and death. Will all your characters make it beyond the fog? Let's see. Witness the casting of Frank Stone when it comes to PS5 in 2024. The trailer for the First Descendant blew us away at this year's Game Awards, with the sight of 4 spacesuit-wearing warriors tackling a massive menace in what looks a lot like Iceland. Nexon's third-person co-op action RPG casts you as a descendant, fighting invaders on the Ingress continent. Multiple descendants all boast different combat styles, but they're united in their love of sci-fi weaponry and use of a grappling hook, deployed to swing up to the bodies of your hulking targets. Between this and Dragon's Dogma 2's Talos, 2024 is shaping into a pretty amazing year for tiny people kicking the snot out of giants. They say the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and we plan to put that to the test when the First Descendant comes to PS5 in 2024. And finally, the 24th game of our 2024 preview we've got for you is Lost Records Bloom and Rage, another title from Don't Nod that brings the branching story goodies. 4 besties are having the time of their life in the summer of 1995, at least until everything changes. Darkness falls, fire rages, and a strange purple glow suggests something otherworldly. And then the 4 friends separate, becoming 4 strangers for the next 27 years. It's here where their paths collide once again and they are forced to deal with the secret that tore them apart all those years ago. And here where we get to dive into the wonderful, heart-wrenching world-building and deeply personal female experience that Don't Nod do so well. Lost Records Bloom and Rage sears its way onto PS5 in 2024. And there you have it! There are 24 games you have got to play in 2024. What a brilliant year we've got lined up! Which are you most excited for? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like the video, hit the notification bell, and subscribe for more from the world of PlayStation. Thanks for watching!
PlayStation